Thanks for being here again, guys. We've got so much great stuff coming up in today's episode. We're talking about getting older, and we're talking about self-awareness as we get older. Does our self-awareness change as we age? And also, what about the pressure on men because of the multiple roles that they're having to play? How much of an impact is that happening? Hang around all the way to the end as we discuss what it's going to be like for you as you stare down the prospect of getting older as a middle-aged man. Hey guys, if you're new to the channel, my name is Andrew, and for the last almost 30 years, I've had the pleasure of helping people from all walks of life to do better with their mental health, their inner life, to become sustainable. Thanks for being here on the channel today. Let's go to today's episode. Let's go high level again for a moment and come back up to all of the headlines collectively: mental health, pressure, masculinity, struggle, etc., etc. What factor, if any, is age? So here we've got 30s, 40s and 50s brackets here. Is it a factor? And if it is, why?
I think it's generational. I think there are some aspects about it where it can be. I know for me personally, my experience is that, and actually, you know what? It's probably the same regardless of the generation. But I know, with my father, I had to be, I wasn't allowed to be emotional or anything like that. Like being masculine was a particular it was a specific stereotype. This is how it looked, and this is how I had to be, kind of thing. Right. So, but in saying that though, I'm sure all of us in the room have had that same kind of reality, and it's more about like, okay, I don't want to be like that for my kids. Okay, and then that might, but how do you find yourself kind of not doing that to them as well? I'm sure our fathers were like, I'm not going to be like that to my kids.
Yeah, I'm not going to be like my dad.
And that's right, exactly.
Yeah. We've all said that.
Yeah. So
and there's good and bad in that, to be fair.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. And I think it's a matter of like, a skill set of like trying to pick and choose, what was good and what's not good. Like, for example, like my father said, I'm proud of you, I love you, up until when we got more serious running a business together, that dynamic shifted, right? And, and he would often say when it's 8 till 4, it's, Jack and Anakin, and then after that it's father and son. And I'm like, really? Right. Really? So, there was a lot of, the line was blurred a lot, and, it was just such an interesting dynamic to work through. Yeah. But he would often say to me though, and that's the thing was hard for me to see that was, but I thought, what happened to the I love yous and I'm proud of yous and all that, and that shifted a lot when we got into business together. Right. And that's why I kind of retreated from it all, because for me, my relationship with my father was way more important than any successful business. If you were to tell me, Anakin, you're gonna have the most successful kitchen company in all of Australia, but you don't talk to your father ever again, I will not sign on that dotted line any time of the day. I won't. Because it's not a good example to show my kids and my sons, because I want a strong relationship with that and show them what a real man, a strong man is to be. A strong man is to make tough decisions.
Yes.
In those kinds of situations, and what success looks like. And to me, success as a man is, being there present for my children and being there to listen to them and just, make sure I'm there for them.
Yeah. Well, look, you're in your 30s.
Yeah.
Okay. You're the young pup here amongst us seasoned veterans. The other seasons in the room, right? So
you want to talk to Methuselah on the other end.
So we're coming along the spectrum progressively. But I say that to say I would regard you as someone that's probably above average on self-awareness for someone in their 30s.
Yeah.
But maybe I personalise it more for you three gentlemen. Has it gotten easier as you've gotten older? Or is the age actually just an incidental factor?
Yeah. I think for myself, I grew up without a dad.
Right.
So from when I was 5, my dad left. Didn't have much of a relationship with him ever since.
Right.
So I think age has made a huge difference for me. So in my 20s... Positive
right.
Along the way, yeah.
Okay.
So in my 20s, a lot of confusion.
Okay.
Even down to gender, just thinking, someone had said, is he gay? He said it to someone I knew, and they passed that information on to me. It was because I was only young, I hadn't had any girlfriends, and people were reading into that. And,
right.
But those words stuck around in my 20s.
Right.
Just in the back of my head. I never was, but it was like, there was always a question mark.
Right.
But then as I've grown up and got older and started to realise I didn't have a dad as a template. So I didn't have a model of a man in my world of this is what's a good man or this is what a dad looks like or a father looks like. So coming along those lines, as I got into my 30s, things started to get a little clearer.
Okay.
I started to, obviously I got married and life started to happen. I had kids.
Yep.
Now I'm in my 40s and I feel a lot more secure in myself and stronger.
Okay.
And I think that's...
So there's been a natural
healthy progression forward in that for me.
Yep.
I know that's not everyone's experience.
Yes.
But I've had to work through all those little things in my head of, well, who am I?
Yeah.
Am I this? Am I that?
Yes.
I don't have somebody saying, well done, good job, son.
Right.
I didn't know when my wife first fell pregnant with our first child, I freaked out. How can I be a dad? I don't even know what a dad is. So, and then obviously finding other men around me that were good men that I started to look to, go, wow, he's a good dad.
Yes.
Maybe I can learn something there.
Yep.
And slowly but surely, as I grew and got older, I started to realise.
Yes. I hear you saying there as you went through the years and through the decades, you matured, you understood yourself more. How common do you think it is that we see men who have this inverse relationship where their self-awareness is growing, but their struggle is growing as well?
Yeah.
Is that a bad cocktail? Is that a worse cocktail than being
I don't know how
unaware?
much of it maybe is just natural. Like there's a bit of a dual tracks going on there, you know what I mean? As we grow and get older and we're working things out and there's a struggle. There's always going to be a struggle.
Yes.
We're always going to be struggling with something.
Yeah.
And but I think the reality is as your self-awareness gets stronger, that struggle might be there, but you're a lot stronger in yourself.
Yes.
And you know who you are and you're more confident in that. So you can deal with the negative thing in a more healthy way.
Yeah, even though you're more aware. Yeah, fair call. What about you guys?
After you.
Well, I was a dad before I got married because my wife already had 2 children. So, and if I could go back to there, so we got together, they were already 1 and 3, so I was an instant father really when we got together. I was mature in a lot of ways. My self-awareness has definitely got better and better the older I've got, and it's helped me in life to a point where I get flashbacks of whether it was the way I used to talk back then, because back then I thought I knew everything, and I knew absolutely nothing.
Right.
So if I was to go back now, I think I'd beat myself up because of how much, as I've gotten older, I've become a lot more self-aware of who I am, what my strengths are, as well as what my weaknesses are.
Okay.
And it's helped me with the challenges.
Yes.
Still have many, many challenges all the time, but I'm a lot more confident and secure in myself, what I'm capable of, and what I need to keep working on.
Right, so like a natural growth process.
Natural growth process has taken place for myself. So, and I was 22 when we got together. So we were an instant family.
Yeah, it's pretty young.
Got married at 23, and you're just kind of thrown into instant fatherhood. And,
and at the time you don't know what you don't know, right?
Exactly. I had a father, so that was... and I love my dad. He's an amazing man. You still got to go on your journey and learn everything.
That's right.
Learn to be a husband and a father at the same time.
Yes.
And my wife's very strong. We're both very strong opinionated, especially back then.
Yes.
I think I've become a lot more humble now, so I say yes dear a little bit more. So as I've gotten older, it's definitely gotten easier.
Okay.
At the same time, I also believe some of the challenges are greater. As I'm getting older.
Yeah, okay. So it's not cut and dry.
No, I don't believe so.
It's very nuanced and unique.
Yeah, that's my own personal experience anyway.
Gotcha.
So
interesting.
And there's a whole challenge now of, we've got 3 daughters and my boy, and there's challenges in parenting as they're getting older.
Totally.
So there's great challenges now.
Yes.
Some greater challenges than I experienced when I was younger. Go back then, it seems like it was a lot easier.
Yeah, okay.
So thank goodness I'm become more aware of myself.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Doug? Has it gotten easier as a factor of age?
Yeah.
Or for you, has that been a non-factor?
Look, I really concur with the, the relaxing into the maturity. There's a lot of things that I worried about that just don't matter.
Yeah.
When you're getting on a bit.
Fair enough.
I think one thing that I'm observing is in myself and also observe it in my dad, and I guess I've got a generation of guys ahead of me that as you age, you tend to get stuck in this is the way I am, or this is the way the world is, and it's a real challenge for me at the moment to not settle into that.
Right.
I think one of the big things for me is to actually step fully into curiosity. It's like there's no there's an exploration for me. It's like, who said, that you get set in your ways and life is going to, can be the same or will be the same, or you'll be the same person.
Yes.
Who said that, that you have to show up in a particular way all the time? Like, it's just, nobody said it. Yeah. So I think for me, the big thing for me, I'm aging and my body's slowing down and, haven't got the enthusiasm I used to have. And that's just a given. And then there's the things that blindside you that, sickness or, relationship issues or whatever. And it's like, that's just part of life.
Right.
I think in the midst of that is this, the joy of digging into the people around you, the joy of, finding out what life's all about, the joy of actually being, having the curiosity of a 12-year-old of just, how does this work? Does it have to be this way?
Yes.
If it doesn't have to be this way, how would I like it to be?
Right.
And I think particularly with relationships, it's like, I've got 3 daughters. They're all grown up and they're very strong and very opinionated and making their own way. And part of my curiosity with them is how do I want to have a relationship with them as I get older?
Right.
I've observed my relationship with my dad, and he's stuck in trauma. There's stuff that he's never gotten out of. And observing that, it's like, well, I don't want to be like that. How do I want to be?
Yes.
And cultivating curiosity.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm fascinated to hear you say that it's a challenge for you, that you're aware of the challenge to not get stuck, when I know you to be not just very self-aware, you are what I would describe as hyper-aware. Well, at the very, very high end of understanding who am I and what am I feeling and what am I thinking and what's going on around me, and yet you're still saying there are challenges there to not get stuck. Is it too simplistic to say that intentionality mitigates that?
Yeah, I don't think it's too simplistic. I think I think like there's the fundamental tenet of if I cultivate this, something will come out of it. If I apply energy and the energy is towards connection and relationship or the joy of life or dealing with whatever, there will be an outcome. That's the way that life seems to be.
Right.
There's also the converse of that, of if I close myself off and isolate myself and put up walls and barriers, then things will not change.
Right. It's a grand challenge, isn't it, really? Because we do see that with men, not so much in their 50s, but certainly 60s and 70s. We see men who, understandably, I think, get to a point where they go, I've actually had enough. And not in a suicidal context, but in the fight and the struggle and the grind. They go, I've had enough. I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore. And then their response becomes to retreat into smallness and stuckness and I've figured out how I like things and leave me alone. And I can understand it, and it must be a challenge. And I want to ask you guys that question. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate you taking the time. I would love you to subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. And I do want to ask you a question. What about you? As you're getting older, are you noticing that your learnings are changing? Do you feel like you've got more knowledge to offer as a result of aging? Why don't you put that down in the comments below so that I can hear from you? And definitely get ready for the next episode where we're going to talk about the factor of getting older, steering down that prospect. Also, the comparison trap, how that affects our mentality as men and how it can potentially steer us off track and detour us from our life's mission. And also, we want to discuss the dangers of isolation, especially as we get older, steering clear of that pothole of isolation. That's a big one. I really appreciate you tuning in. See you in the next episode.